Hi everyone. This is to help you prepare your annotated bibliographies that are due for first year seminar next week. So why do you need to cite all of your sources at the end of your paper in the bibliography? First of all, you're in a conversation with other people who research this subject. Whoever did the work to write your source deserves recognition, so you're giving credit where credit is due. Also, in the United States, we have intellectual property laws that protect professional publications. So if you use a source but don't give it credit, you can actually get in trouble legally for doing that. The next reason to cite your sources is that if you get your readers interested in your topic, they might want to look up the source to read it themselves. So you're telling them where to find that source if they want to do that. Next, by citing your sources, you're showing that they're up to date and credible, because the citation includes the date of publication for the source and who the author is and so on. And finally, by citing your sources, it makes you look professional and credible yourself. Now, if you don't cite your sources properly, you can get into trouble with what's called plagiarism. The definition of plagiarism is using another person's work without giving them proper credit. It's a major university offense, and in a professional context, you can be sued for plagiarism and get into all kinds of other trouble. So the best way to avoid plagiarism in a research project is to cite your sources properly. You'll do that partly through what's called in-text citations, which we'll talk about next week. And right now we're talking about how to list the sources in your bibliography at the end of the paper. So the one exception for needing citations is if you're talking about something that's completely common knowledge, you don't need to cite a source. So if I say Joe Biden and Donald Trump have been running for president, pretty close to everyone on the planet knows that, so I'm not going to need to cite a source. But if you're in doubt about whether something is common knowledge or not, it's always best to cite a source to be on the safe side. Now, the one thing that complicates citation just a little bit is that different academic disciplines use slightly different citation formats. The different formats have small variation in punctuation and the order in which elements of the citation are presented, for example. So scientific journals use a variety of different styles depending on the journal. History and some of the other humanities use what's called Chicago style. Social and behavioral sciences use what's called APA. English, languages, and literature often use what's called MLA. And we're going to use the MLA style in my class simply in order to be consistent with what you learn in your English classes here at App State. And some of you are probably taking an English class right now where you're learning how to write a paper using MLA style, in which case that's really going to help you out with my class because we're using exactly the same style here, and you can just directly apply what you've learned in your English classes. Now, partly for my class and partly for future reference, I want to let you know that the Writing Center website of App State gives all kinds of really detailed information for how to do all of these different formats. So on their webpage, you can go to Handouts and Resources, then click on Documentation, and then scroll down to MLA Format and Documentation, and that gives you tons of extra information beyond this video for how to cite different kinds of sources if you want more information. Remember also that when you look up sources in the library's databases, the library will give you an automated citation engine where you can click on MLA style and it will format that citation for you automatically, and you can cut and paste that or download it different ways. But just be aware that when you use the automated engines, sometimes they do make small mistakes, so it's always a good thing to proofread what they do and just be sure that it's completely correct. Okay, so now let's move to the model annotated bibliography that I'm giving you just to be sure that you know exactly what you should be doing for next Tuesday. So I'm doing this model project where I do every step of the process just a week or so ahead of you. And the name of my topic, as you know, is Ghost Forests and Sea Level Rise in the Florida Keys. So I've listed here 5 sources, including at least one web page, at least one recent news article, and at least one peer-reviewed academic journal article, which is what I'm requiring you to find. And then remember that your fourth source and your fifth source can be anything that you want that's a good and credible source. So first, note that the entries are alphabetically arranged by whatever comes first in the entry. So here's F, here's O. Scrolling down a little further, we come to SI, and then after SI, ST, and so forth. So of course, all of you know how to place things in alphabetical order. That's not hard. It is something that students frequently forget. So if you turn in your bibliography and you've forgotten to alphabetize the order, I'll simply remind you, and you can correct that for the first draft of your paper. Then I also want to show you the proper indentation, which is called a hanging indent. And hanging indent just means that the first line is with the left-hand margin, and then all of the subsequent lines are indented. And one way you can create a hanging indent is by using these little gizmos up on the ruler, this square at the bottom, and then the little triangle at the top. So say that I wanted to create a hanging indent for this citation. I pull on the square like that, and then I pull back this little triangle, and that gives me the hanging indent. Another way that you can create the right kind of indent, and I thank my student Adam in the 1230 section for pointing this out. I don't usually do it this way, but it's a good way to do it. Go up here to paragraph. This is in Microsoft Word. I don't know other programs, I just use Word. But in Word, you can come down here and select different types of indentation. So say that I wanted no indentation at all. I could click on None. Okay. And see, that got rid of my hanging indent. Now, if I want to bring it back, I come up here. I click on Hanging for hanging indent. Okay. And now I've indented it correctly. Now, if you want to do this kind of the quicker and easier way, you can basically imitate how I'm formatting the entries here, and that'll get you close enough to good MLA style for first year seminar. I want to be sure you know that I'm not going to be super picky about things like your exact punctuation, exactly how you list the web address. There are different ways to do these things that can be correct, and here I'm just looking for you to understand that you realize that you need to cite the sources, that the basic elements of the entry are all there somewhere, and that it's formatted in a way that looks neat and professional, and that's more or less MLA style. But like, if you can't figure out whether a certain punctuation mark should be a period or a semicolon or no punctuation mark at all, do not lose sleep over it. Don't stress out over the small details. We're looking here for the big picture. And if there's something that you need to correct, I'll let you know that in between the annotated bibliography and the first draft of your paper. That's what the process is for. Okay, so here's a recent news article. It's from the New York Times. It's got two authors. It's got the article title in quotation marks. It's got the date. You can kind of see how that's done. And then below the citation, this is the annotation. An annotation is a short paragraph giving some of the basic points contained in the source, why you chose the source, how you're going to use it for your paper, that kind of thing. And I ask you to do the annotations simply to show me that you've at least started to read the source and that you know what's in it, that you're not just giving me a citation off of a database, but that you've actually started to read it. So this annotation for my first source is a short paragraph. Scrolling down, I included one annotation that's very short, just to show you that sometimes that's okay. This annotation here, it's just 2 sentences long. I didn't have too much I needed to say about that particular source. Mostly I just wanted to say that it contains a video that would be great to include in a presentation. So that's a short annotation. As far as length, the important thing is that the whole thing should be a full 2 pages long, not less than 2 pages. Note that everything is double spaced, and I include a blank space in between the different entries just to separate them clearly. So it's not really that much writing, but you just write a couple little things about each source separately. Okay, so I'm not going to go over all the fine details about how I arranged each entry, but if anyone is confused about how to do it, if anything in this video hasn't been clear, please just send me questions via email. You could even send me a draft of your annotated bibliography if you're really uncertain about how to do it, and I can help you as you go over the weekend. And again, the suggested due date for this is next Tuesday. If you can't quite get it done by then, there's no penalty for late work, but just remember that the end of the semester is coming up at this point, so it's in your best interest to get this done quickly. And also, don't skip over the annotated bibliography and try to go straight to writing the paper itself. The bibliography is worth 75 points, so it's a lot of your grade, and everything that you do for the annotated bibliography, you're going to have to do it for the paper draft anyhow. So you might as well just get the 75 points by letting the annotated bibliography be a separate step. It's a really good stage to take in your research process. It helps to break down your research project into manageable steps. I really recommend doing annotated bibliographies in all of your classes, even if the professor doesn't require it. It's just a really helpful way for you to be sure that you're processing your sources in your brain as you go. Okay, so good luck with writing these, and I look forward to seeing them. Bye-bye.